I'm asking the people on Zoom. Can you hear when I'm testing the microphone, Kent? He can't. So they can't hear. It's very low on Zoom. Okay. My phone needs to be turned off. That's embarrassing. Sorry, I apologize. I should have explained that. Okay. Oh, that wasn't my phone. Is that your phone? Do you have it on mute? Oh. No, do you have it on mute? Your ringer. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Can you hear us now?
I can, yes.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you quite well now.
Thank you.
One's not working. Oh, can you hear me off the public comment? Oh.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. We're going to test one more mic. Thank you for being patient.
Sure, that's fine.
Testing microphone, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Great.
Should I be getting any video?
Still in a minute. Can you hear? Testing.
Yes, I can hear.
We're getting the video going in about a minute.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear this mic?
Kent, we're going to test two more with you. Is that okay?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Talking privilege is off. Thank you so much for helping us.
You're very welcome.
He was and then the Woodies. Oh, okay. Okay. And then no, Steve asked. So I need him to co-host. Sure. Oh.
I'm fine.
So I have the Zoom muted. Yeah. Do I?
You gotta make sure that.
Do I need the computer too? Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Because it's not volume to the computer.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order the August 24th, 2022 Landfill Committee meeting. Glad to have you here, as well as all of you out in Zoom land. First of all, Supervisor Dirks, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure will. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I have the clerk call roll, please?
Supervisor Tiffany,
Here.
Supervisor Dirks.
Here.
We're all here. Okay. I would like to get a motion to acknowledge certificate of posting.
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. 2-zip. Okay. We're on a roll. Absolutely. Okay, the next item, we need to approve resolution number 2022-02 to authorize remote teleconference meeting for the landfill committee. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion as stated.
Yes. Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2-zip again. And then lastly, I need a motion for approval of our minutes for January 13th, 2022.
I motion to approve the minutes for January 13th, 2022.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
We are now moving to public comment. Let me let everyone know this is for any public comment to the landfill committee that is not for the landfill expansion, which there'll be plenty of time for public comment when we get to that agenda item. So, clerk, is there anyone either in chambers or on Zoom that would like to make public comment again on something other than on the landfill expansion? What?
We need to read this.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead and read it.
Okay. The Landfill Committee encourages your participation at this meeting and welcomes your comments. Speakers are requested to state their name prior to speaking to the committee. Not more than 3 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and no more than 20 minutes to each subject unless otherwise extended or limited by the chair. A speaker's allotted time cannot be deferred to another speaker. Committee members may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, no action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If appropriate, the chair or any committee member may direct that a matter be referred to Integrated Waste Management staff for review. If you are participating on Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. At this time, state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record. You have been unmuted. Oh, I'm sorry. We're done.
Okay. With that being said, is there anyone in chambers or on Zoom that would like to make public comment again on item other than the landfill expansion? Paul?
Good evening, subcommittee, board members. Let's see, Selena asked that I kind of cover a little bit of this. I'm with John Smith Road Landfill, and for quite a few years, we've been picking litter. Part of our arrangement with the county was to pick litter on John Smith Road, of which the county reimburses us for that, and that continues to happen week in, week out. In addition to that, we kind of went above and beyond and started picking litter on Fairview Road. And so we've continued that for quite a while now. And here's some stats just for a couple month period. For the months of February and March, we were able to collect 620 pounds of litter on Fairview, separate than the John Smith litter collection. And then in June and July, we collected 720 pounds. And an important distinction is at the end of March is when we stopped taking out of county flow. So we're actually picking up what turned out to be more litter in those two-month periods. That's all I got. Thank you.
I received a message that the microphone at the podium is either not turned on or the person needs to speak more directly into it.
Okay, is there anyone else?
We have no speakers on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to staff announcements, information only.
Good evening, Supervisor Tiffany and Supervisor Dirks. I have just one quick announcement regarding the landfill expansion draft environmental impact report schedule. The draft EIR was released on July 15th for a 45-day public review period. Yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, the board approved extending the public review period from August 29th to September 6th. Written comment on the draft environmental impact report should be received by San Benito County no later than 5 p.m. on September 6th. Written comment can be mailed to the San Benito County, oops, I meant to show that. Written comments can be mailed to the San Benito County Planning and Land Use Division, and the address is provided on the next slide, or emailed to our principal planner, Stan Ketchum. The public hearings for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisor meeting dates are yet to be determined, and that concludes our staff announcements.
And Selena, everything, obviously everything tonight is being recorded, or all public comments will be part of the input.
Yes.
Okay.
We did get a raised hand just as we were trying to close the public comment. Is it
Okay.
are you okay with going
Sure,
back?
we can go back to that. Absolutely. Go ahead.
You have been unmuted. Please state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record.
I'm sorry, I think I want to be during the public comment about the EIR report, so I think I'm in the wrong spot. My apologies.
No problem. Thank you. Now, we'll go to landfill committee member announcements, information only. Supervisor Dirks, do you have any announcements or comments?
No, I just want to thank the staff again for creating a town hall on Monday night. That was a huge undertaking. There was a lot of moving parts there. A lot of people had to come together from a lot of different places, including, staff from the landfill as well, to provide public information. It looked like to about 50 different community members who were there and took an interest. So I really do appreciate the community members who came out and attended it to get further information, and everyone who actually coordinated and put the event together. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll second that. The staff's gone over and above to try to get as much information as possible out and give the public as much time and opportunity to make public comment on the draft EIR. This is obviously a very important issue in our community, and I think we all want to make sure that we get all the information and input we can from the public, and so we appreciate the staff doing anything possible to do that, including what we're having tonight. We're going to move to the presentation, and then there'll be plenty of time for public comment. I'll just remind everyone when we do get to the public comment that, again, we cannot respond to the comment. We're just recording it, taking it in. If there's questions that come up during public comment, if it's a procedural thing, then if possible, staff may be able to respond to that. But otherwise, we cannot respond to questions as well. So with that, Selena, are you taking the lead on the presentation?
Actually, we're going to have Bree do a quick introduction, and Stan Ketchum, our principal planner on this project, will be providing the presentation.
Right. And I was also going to add that we're going to have the presentation presented in Spanish as well. Okay. Bree, are you on?
I am. Good evening. I think my camera is disabled, so can it be turned on? I don't need it on, but if you'd like it on. Should I wait for, I think the host needs to give me camera access.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Okay, sorry.
Bree, I think we're going to go ahead and proceed without the camera.
Okay, perfect. Well, good evening. My name is Bree Mobius. I'm with Hefner, Stark, and Maroy, and I'm outside counsel for the county on the landfill expansion project. And we did just want to provide a little guidance on tonight. And I think Supervisor Tiffany covered it as well, just so that the public's aware of the purpose of tonight and what we will accomplish. I think, as everyone knows, the draft environmental impact report is out for public review and public comment at this time. And as part of the process, the county will consider all the comments and provide written responses to all the comments received. And we wanted to make a couple clarifications based on some questions. You will not receive direct responses to you if you make a comment. So you won't be receiving, for example, an email back with a response. All the comments will be taken together through the end of the comment period, which is September 6th. And then the county will draft final written responses to those, and that will be incorporated in the final environmental impact report. And then you can go see the responses there. And for CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, your comments should be on environmental issues. And so if your comments are simply stating that you support the landfill expansion or you oppose the landfill expansion, they will be included and compiled together, but you will not be receiving a specific substantive comment back because that's not an environmental issue. And tonight's an opportunity to learn more about the project and the draft environmental impact report, and our opportunity to hear from you as well. So we will take your oral comments and include them on the EAR. And as Supervisor Tiffany mentioned, we will not be doing a Q&A or question and answer session. If you have a procedural question or where we're at in the process and what lies ahead, we can clarify that tonight. But otherwise, we will just be hearing comments tonight and then responding to them in the final written responses. And I will turn it over to Stan. I think he's going to do a presentation at this point on the project.
Just before we do that, this is Joel Ellenwood. I'm the Assistant County Counsel. I wanted to let the public know that the reason that we're not responding to questions or answering is because of the restrictions of the Brown Act. This is a notice public meeting, public comments. There are specific rules that apply to public comments and the ability of the members of the committee or the staff to respond to those questions. It's not that we don't want to answer questions or respond to the public. It's just that this particular forum does not allow that to occur. That's why we had the workshop presentation on Monday that allowed for give and take and question and answer in that workshop format. But this is a notice public meeting, and those rules limit our ability to respond.
Supervisor Tiffany and Dirks, if I may, would you like me to translate that in Spanish? Thank you. Muchas gracias por estar aquí esta tarde. La abogada Bree de este proyecto de la expansión del vertedero acaba de anunciar tres cosas. Básicamente que la preparación del informe ambiental ha sido ya preparado y está ahorita en el término de revisión. Empezó la revisión julio 15 y se terminará agosto 29. Pero también nos avisó que ayer el condado de San Benito extendió la fecha límite para proveer comentarios sobre el informe ambiental hasta septiembre 6. Los comentarios que ustedes sometan para el informe ambiental no serán respondidos a ustedes directamente, sino que serán parte del informe ambiental final. Y entonces en esa forma ahí sí serían respondidos y ustedes pueden tener una copia de ese informe ambiental final cuando esté preparado. Y luego el abogado Joel Ellingwood acaba de decir que esta noche los comentarios que se van a recibir se pueden recibir, pero no necesariamente se podrían ser respondidos esta noche, solamente que sea un comentario técnico. Posiblemente así sí se pueda responder, pero la razón por la cual no se puede responder es por la ley del Brown Act. pero si tienen algunos que posiblemente se puedan responder como técnicos, entonces se puede hacer la decisión. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Stan, I think you're on.
Thank you. Good evening, supervisors. My name is Stan Ketchum, as contract to the county principal planner and project manager for the landfill expansion project. The presentation tonight is, again, similar to Monday evenings. There's kind of two components to it. First, talking about the planning and environmental process that we're in the midst of, and secondly is description of the components of the landfill expansion.
La presentación de esta noche será para la extensión del vertedero, que es el lugar donde se colecta la basura, y se hablará sobre la planificación y proceso ambiental y ampliación propuesta del vertedero. Thank you.
In terms of the planning and environmental process, the first step is the submittal of applications. There's two pending applications that were submitted by Waste Solutions, the operator of the landfill. The first is the general plan amendment to change the county's general plan designation on the expansion area to what's called the public quasi-public general plan designation, which is the appropriate designation for public uses, and the county's landfill is a public county public operation, so responsibility. So that's the proper general plan designation. And secondly, conditional use permit, which will bring the expansion project into conformance with the zoning ordinance. In terms of the draft environmental impact report, the main components of a general plan, or excuse me, of an environmental impact report, first is a project description, which is laid out in detail so the public and decision makers understand everything about the nature of the project. And then the report describes the environmental setting, what's the environment at the project site and vicinity currently, and what proposed changes and what impacts may occur from those changes, and also lays out potential mitigations, solutions for those kind of impacts. The report also is required to look at cumulative impacts of other pending projects that together, the proposed project and other projects, if there's contributing impacts, those need to be analyzed as well. And growth-inducing impacts, if a proposed project were to create additional growth of some kind, that needs to be analyzed as well. And then the EIR describes project alternatives, which I'll get into in more detail, that the California Environmental Quality Act requires an EIR to look at different sizes, different aspects to a project and compare impacts, so the decision makers have a full range of understanding of different types of nature of the project. And then once the public review period has concluded and the county receives all the comments, and under the CEQA law is required to respond to every single comment that's been received. And if changes to the draft EIR are necessary or desired, those changes are also prepared by the county, and it's called the final environmental impact report, and that is prepared, and that's what is presented to the decision makers, which in this case both the Planning Commission. Planning Commission is responsible for taking action on the conditional use permit and making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding the general plan amendment. So both bodies, the Commission and the Board, will be responsible for accepting that EIR, for certifying that it is complete and satisfies the Environmental Quality Act law prior to making a decision on the project.
Thank you, Stan. Se le avisa al público que el proyecto consiste de dos aplicaciones. Uno es de la enmienda al plan general del uso que está ahorita hacia un uso público, y también es un uso condicional que se requiere para la aprobación del proyecto. Ahorita el reporte de informe de impacto ambiental tiene varios componentes. Uno de ellos es la descripción del proyecto, que detalla todos los componentes del proyecto propuesto, la extensión del lugar del basurero. También tiene un entorno ambiental, básicamente el sitio. También tiene información sobre los impactos acumulativos y también habla sobre posibles inductores de crecimiento del condado. También tiene alternativas del proyecto, no solamente lo que se está proponiendo, pero también alternativas. Y al final, cuando se termine la revisión del borrador del informe ambiental, se hará un informe ambiental final que viene siendo todos los comentarios que se han recibido, una respuesta formal hacia todos esos comentarios. Entonces se llevará a cabo una audiencia pública en la Junta de Planificación para recomendar estas solicitudes hacia la Junta de Supervisores, y la Junta de Supervisores, en esa junta es cuando se va a decidir la aprobación, si se aprueba o no se aprueba este proyecto. Thank you.
Another part of the planning and environmental process is the public outreach, which a number of components to that have been prepared by the county staff. Neighborhood mailings regarding both the what's called the notice of preparation, which was at the very beginning of the EIR preparation. We sent out a large radius of mailings, email notification list that's been growing since we started the project. Press release and various social media outlets were utilized. The town hall meeting the other night, and then this evening's meeting as well. The public hearings, I think I've already alluded to. Both the Planning Commission and the board will have separate public hearings, which, as Selena said, have not been calendared yet. And again, actions will be taken on the use permit by the commission, and the Board of Supervisors will act on the general plan amendment, and the conditional use permit is appealable. If an action, whichever the action is by the Planning Commission, is appealed, then the board becomes the final decision maker on an appeal of the use permit.
Han habido bastantes formas de el alcance público desde el condado hacia el público. Uno de ellos es, se ha mandado correo postal a áreas cercanas hacia el lugar del proyecto, y no solamente de las áreas requeridas por ley, sino también más allá de esas áreas. Se han mandado correo electrónico a personas que han estado en las listas para poder recibir esas notificaciones. También se han hecho comunicados de prensa en los periódicos y en las redes sociales. También se llevó a cabo una reunión comunitaria este lunes, agosto 22, en la tarde, y también esta junta que se está llevando ahorita, la reunión del comité para este proyecto con los miembros de los supervisadores del condado. Y como les dije hace ratito, van a haber también varias audiencias públicas. Una va a ser la junta de la comisión, donde se recomendará el proyecto, se determinará sobre si se recomendará el proyecto, y también habrá junta de los supervisadores del condado.
The next slide is the location map for the project. I'm sure everybody's quite familiar with the general location of the landfill on John Smith Road, east of Fairview Road, pardon me. The red outline is the existing landfill area, and the black outline here is the expansion area. Pardon me. And then to the south is south across John Smith Road is the 101-acre parcel owned by the county, which is a portion of that, about 30 acres, was the zoning established several years ago for a proposed resource recovery site, and that project has not proceeded. The remaining 70-some-odd acres would be available to use as habitat mitigation required by the species impacts of the proposed project. So that's one option for the required restored and protected conservation area that the project may need for his habitat impacts.
Thank you, Stan. El lugar, en el mapa donde se ve ahorita en la pantalla, el lugar donde se ve con la línea roja es ahorita donde existe el lugar del basurero del condado de San Benito. La línea negra que está hacia arriba de la línea roja es el lugar donde se propone la expansión del proyecto. Y hacia abajo, la línea azul es otro terreno que es, ahorita el condado de San Benito es dueño de ese terreno. No es parte de este proyecto, pero se está considerando posiblemente una área, especialmente el área donde está la área de la línea verde, para poder usarse como para poder preservar esa área en caso de que se ocupe área para preservación. Thank you.
This slide explains kind of the basic statistical, if you will, information about the project. The left column is called the baseline, which is the existing plan, the existing allowed land uses and size and such of the project. And on the right side are the proposed changes, and I'll go through those here. The existing landfill, about 95 acres currently, and the proposed addition of 388 acres for a total of 483 acres. The landfill is typically measured or described both in terms of its how far and how much area it covers on the ground, but also in the volume or the airspace that it will fill up over time as refuse is and modules of waste are deposited, and it will fill up. And so 9.3 million cubic yards is the current allowed amount of gross airspace that the project could take up as it is today. In the future, the proposed project would allow up to 48 million cubic yards of airspace capacity. The current waste footprint, the area that's currently used for the operation of the landfill today, is about 58 acres of the 95 complete acres of the project, and the proposal would add 252, almost 253 acres for a total of 310 acres of the waste footprint operation area of the total 483 total acres that would be the entire site. The landfill currently is allowed to go up to a maximum height or elevation of 920 feet, and the proposed project would add additional 29 feet of elevation for a total allowed maximum of 949 feet above sea level. The current amount of refuse that's allowed to come in per day in tonnage is about 1,000 tons per day, and the proposed project would allow a maximum total of 2,300 tons per day, which is an end goal that would be reached over time. That's for all of the waste that's deposited and that's to the site. That does not include what's called waste that's for beneficial reuse, which can be in the form of construction debris or other kinds of waste that can be used for coverage over the waste, called the daily cover and such things like that. So that's the other component of the waste that's allowed.
Actualmente hay 95.16 acres en el lugar y se propone una adición de 388.05 acres para un total de 483.21 acres. Como indica aquí, una columna tiene la base y la otra columna es lo que se propone. También ahorita tiene capacidad bruta del espacio aéreo de 9.3 millones de yardas cúbicas y se propone extenderse hacia 48 millones de yardas cúbicas de espacio aéreo en el lugar del proyecto. También ahorita de esas 95.16 acres, 58 acres ahorita es lo que se usa para el basurero. Y se propone poner una adición de 252.74 acres para un total de el uso del basurero de 310.74 acres. También la elevación, ¿qué de alto va a estar? Ahorita se puede llegar a un nivel hasta 920 pies de alto y el proyecto propone una adición de 29 pies para un máximo de 29 pies más a 949 pies de elevación máxima. Y ahorita se aceptan 1,000 toneladas de basura al día y el proyecto propone una máxima cantidad de 2,300 toneladas de basura al día. Es una es una proporción máxima, pero hay otras alternativas también. Y si es basura que no necesariamente sea basura, pero puede ser reciclada o puede ser como material de construcción, ese residuo puede ser ilimitado. Thank you.
Now going to go into the various operational aspects and changes that make up the proposed project. So just to start with the aerial of the existing landfill today, takes up about 1.5 acres. And this is the overview of the entire proposed expansion of the entrance area, which grows to about 5 acres. And one of the main components of that is the left half of the slide is a very, very large extension of the entrance driveway, if you will, which will provide a much greater on-site area for stacking of cars waiting to go into the landfill, which will be greatly assisting in removing the queuing that often happens out on John Smith Road landfill, especially on the road, during the weekends especially. So this will contribute significantly to that problem. And then I'm going to move to an enlargement of before I leave this slide. In the middle of the large entrance driveway area, there's a triangle-shaped area that is the new location for the household hazardous waste activities that the county operates, and that's a significant improvement to have that located there prior to cars having to drive through the scale area at the landfill itself. So that's an improvement in the logistics of that area. And then this is a enlargement of the kind of the main operating area, you might call it, of the landfill, where cars will come in and go up to the scales to be weighed as necessary, but also cars can move off to we call the reuse and recycling area, where people can do recycling drop-off. There's an area for cars that can even just drop off small amounts of waste and not have to drive all the way up to the operating face of the landfill. And there'll be an area for actually dropping off items for reuse, that instead of throwing it in the landfill, maybe it's something that is reusable and somebody else might be interested in it. So it's another way to free up space in the landfill. And the other thing I was going to mention, the kind of the beige large rectangle on the far right side is the proposed location for the renewable natural gas plant. That'll be a new part of the project, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Thank you, Stan. Ahorita, actualmente, la entrada del sitio es de como aproximadamente 1.5 acres. El proyecto propone extenderse la entrada a 5 acres y tendrá varias cosas. Por ejemplo, una de ellas sería que la entrada será más larga para que los vehículos puedan estar formados hacia adentro de la entrada y no necesariamente formados hacia la carretera John Smith, y así poder tener todos esos carros formados hacia adentro. También hay un triángulo. Ese triángulo que ven en el centro de la pantalla es un triángulo donde podrían dejar las personas, no tendrán que entrarse hasta mero adentro, sino ahí pueden dejar la basura tóxica que usan, por ejemplo, día a día limpiando sus cosas de la casa. Los líquidos que usan, cosas por el estilo, se puede dejar ahí en ese triángulo. También habrá un lugar para que puedan dejar cosas que posiblemente todavía les sirvan y ya no necesariamente las ocupen ustedes, pero alguien más pueda ocuparse de esas cosas. Entonces habrá un lugar donde se puedan dejar esas cosas. Y también hacia el más adentro hay un rectángulo hacia el lado extremo de la pantalla, y de eso vamos a hablar en un poquito más tarde. Thank you.
The proposed project will continue a variety of environmental controls and monitoring systems that are currently on the project and as it operates, and they'll be expanded as necessary as the project grows. They include the leachate collection and recovery system for fluids that leak through the landfill, a landfill gas collection system, a groundwater monitoring system, and surface and stormwater monitoring systems as well, and collection systems.
Habrá también un control y monitoreo ambiental a lo largo de la expansión del proyecto. Por ejemplo, va a haber la recolección y recuperación de lixiviados. Lixiviados es un término que se usa para los líquidos que se caen en la basura, que se colectan y se caen en el basurero. También habrá recolección de gas de vertedero. También habrá aguas subterráneas que se colectan y aguas superficiales y pluviales que se colectan durante las lluvias.
As I mentioned a minute ago, there will be a new renewable natural gas facility that will be built. The EIR describes the point at which the generation of the methane will be adequate to support such a facility. The landfill, the buried organic material, generates both methane and carbon dioxide, and those are both greenhouse gases, which it's important to find ways to collect. And so the facility will extract 92% of the methane that's generated in the landfill, and it'll process that and convert it into what's called biomethane, which is the equivalent of natural gas as we use in our homes. And that gas will be transported in a new pipeline along John Smith Road, about a mile to the end of an existing PG&E pipeline, and it'll flow right into that and go into the PG&E gas system. And the small remaining amount of the methane will be combusted in what's called the on-site flare, which is something that's an existing technology at the site now.
Thank you, Stan. La instalación tendrá un aspecto de gas natural renovable muy importante. Los materiales orgánicos que son enterrados de basura generan gas del vertedero, de la basura, y eso es conocido como metano y dióxido de carbono, conocido como CO2. Entonces, eso es como quien dice tóxico. El metano y el dióxido de carbón son gases de efecto invernadero. Entonces, la instalación de gas natural renovable que se propone con este proyecto extraerá y procesará el 92% del metano del vertedero, de la basura, básicamente. Y el producto de gas natural renovable es lo que viene siendo biometano, que viene siendo como quien dice gas natural. Entonces, todo eso del metano de vertedero, del basurero, el 92% será convertido en ese proceso en ese gas natural. Entonces, se va a tratar con PG&E y ese gas, cuando se convierta en gas natural, será transportado a través de una tubería enterrada de 1 milla hasta la tubería de PG&E, y el metano restante, el 8% aproximadamente, será quemado con antorcha en el sitio.
There will be expanded litter and dust control techniques that will be built into the proposed project. On-site activities that currently exist include, as I call it, daily covering of the exposed refuse that's been received daily, both permanent and temporary litter fences to control litter as it may be moving around the site. On-site litter collection already occurs and will continue. What's called the truck wheel wash, which is intended to try to get dirt and mud and such off of the wheels of trucks before they move out on the street, will actually be expanded, and road watering to keep down dust also occurs. In terms of off-site improvements, the proposed project will include a litter collection program 3 times a week that will occur along the haul route for the large commercial trucks that is approved by the Board of Supervisors. There will be increased signage along the haul route regarding the requirements to cover refuse loads with tarps. There will also be a new 24-hour litter hotline that will be manned to receive any kind of concerns or complaints about litter from the landfill, and also a new site entrance camera to try to help monitor the tarping requirement.
Thank you, Stan. Habrá mejoras en el control de polvo y basura adentro del sitio y fuera del sitio. Adentro del sitio, por ejemplo, habrá mejoras consistiendo de cobertura diaria de basura expuesta. También habrá vallas temporales permanentes para la basura. Habrá también la colección de basura en el sitio. También antes de que se vayan las trocas, habrá un lavado de llantas para las llantas de los camiones para que así se quede todo el polvo, el lodo y no vaya a transferirse en las carreteras. Y también habrá riego de agua en el camino para que el polvo se mantenga bajo. O se elimine. Y las mejoras fuera del sitio, habrá un programa de recolección de basura en la ruta 3 veces por semana por la ruta antes de llegar al basurero. Si hay alguna basura, ese programa llevará personal para que pueda levantar esa basura, y también habrá señalación en la ruta con respecto a que todos los camiones tengan lonas, que es un requisito por ley, que tengan lonas para que la basura no se tire. Y también habrá una línea directa de 24 horas para que si la gente ve que las personas no están respetando estas leyes, entonces pueden hacer un reporte para que se pueda hacer algo a cabo. Y también habrá una cámara en la entrada del sitio para que se grabe en el área. Thank you.
The existing landfill has a small area, slightly less than an acre, that's called the Class 1 area because the definition of Class 1 is an area that has hazardous wastes that's been deposited, and this small area received liquid hazardous agricultural waste between 1977 and 1983, and that area was closed in 1992. And the project proposes to complete what is called the final clean closure of that area, which will include excavating and removing the remaining hazardous waste and transporting that to a Class 1 disposal facility, verifying that all contamination has been completely removed, and then converting that additional area into part of the main landfill area that was called Class 3, which is the standard form of and the kind of waste that's received. And that Class 1 clean closure is overseen by the State Department of Hazardous Substance Control.
En el año 1973 hasta el año 1983 había un lugar de 0.79 acres en el vertedero en donde se podía eliminar desechos peligrosos en forma de líquidos, y esa área cerró en 1992. Entonces, parte de este proyecto lo que también haría es excavar y remover residuos peligrosos que posiblemente se hayan quedado en esa área, y también habrá transporte a instalación de eliminación de la clase 1, que es designado por el Estado, y se verificará que toda la contaminación sea eliminada y se convierta en una área adicional del basurero del área a una clase 3, que ya viene siendo una clase aceptada por el Estado para que se use como el área del basurero. Thank you.
The EIR analyzes 4 different proposed commercial vehicle haul routes for consideration by the county, by the administration. The existing haul route that the commercial trucks that come from out of county come down Highway 101 and onto State Route 25 and turn left onto Shore Road and follow Shore Road all around and down Fairview Road to John Smith Road and then to the landfill. The proposed project, the project is proposing a new route that would keep the trucks on State Route 25. Instead of turning on Shore Road, they would continue on State Route 25 down to Wright McCloskey, which is the green line on the map, and turn left and drive over to Fairview and then right on Fairview and continue down to John Smith Road. That's the proposed route for the trucks coming in, the loaded trucks, and then empty trucks as they leave John Smith Road, they would turn on Fairview and then continue on the current route all the way up Shore Road and to 25 to go north. There's two alternate routes that are being studied and will be fully evaluated in the EIR so that the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors have the opportunity to fully evaluate those and consider any or those as be appropriate for the project. The first one is described as alternate 6. It's called the South Fairview route, and the trucks would stay on State Route 25 all the way down to Fairview Road where it intersects with State Route 25. They would make a left turn and head north up Fairview and then make a right turn onto John Smith Road. And the last alternative, the fourth alternative, or it's actually alternative 7, the purple line on the map, keeps the trucks on State Route 25 the longest. They come all the way down State Route 25 to Best Road, make a left turn on Best Road, and come up to intersect at John Smith Road, and then over to the landfill.
Thank you, Stan. Hay ahorita rutas comerciales que se usan existentes para el basurero. Tienen un contrato estas rutas, estos comercios que con el basurero, para poder usar el basurero tienen que usar estas rutas. Y ahorita la que se usa está identificada como la que se ve. Stan, would you be able to put the slide before so that I can, thank you so much. That way I can identify it with the viewers. La ruta azul, si se viene por el 101 y luego por el 25 hacia el condado de San Benito, ahorita tienen que entrar hacia la calle Shore a la izquierda, y la calle Shore se conecta con la Fairview. Entonces de la Fairview se vienen todos, se vienen hacia el sur y luego dan una izquierda hacia la calle John Smith y luego entran hacia el basurero. Esa es la ruta existente. La que propone el proyecto es la línea del color verde lima. Y eso es, también vienen por el 101 por la calle 25. Entonces en la 25 darán una izquierda por la calle Wright, que también, como saben, se cambia a la calle McCloskey. Y de allí se va derechito hacia el este, hacia la Fairview. Y luego a la Fairview le dan a la derecha. Y luego cuando lleguen a la John Smith le dan a la izquierda y se van hacia el vertedero, lugar donde se colecta la basura. Entonces esa es la propuesta, pero también el informe ambiental propone dos alternativas que también pueden analizar el board de supervisadores para poder posiblemente considerarlas como rutas de usar. Y una de esas es conocida como alternativa número 6, que también viene siendo entran por el 25 y luego es la línea número 6 es la línea verde olivo por todo el 25 y luego le dan a la izquierda en la calle Fairview y luego cuando llegan a la calle John Smith le dan a la derecha hacia el vertedero. Y la última alternativa, la alternativa número 7, será también muy similar en que es por toda la calle 25, pero pasan la calle Fairview y en la calle Best le dan a la izquierda hasta llegar a la calle John Smith. Thank you.
Water supply, yeah. In terms of the water supply for the project, the existing water supply is from a combination of stormwater basins on site that collect any rainfall, together with water from the Sunny Slope Water District, which is trucked to the property. Pardon me. The proposed water source would be primarily from the on-site water collected in the stormwater basins. Supplemental water supply for during drought times is available from a combination of an off-site agricultural well. There would also water be trucked to the site, covering the stormwater basins to prevent as much evaporation and of the water supply in the basins, and lastly also possible supply from the Sunny Slope Water District.
Thank you, Stan. El suministro de agua consiste ahorita existentemente de dos formas. Una es, hay excavaciones en donde se colecta la agua de las lluvias y se puede usar esa agua donde se colectan, y también el distrito de agua del condado de Sunny Slope. Y lo que se propone es también esa agua que se colecta en esas excavaciones para retener las aguas pluviales, que viene siendo agua de la lluvia. Y el suministro suplementario durante la sequía, como ahorita bien sabemos que estamos en una sequía, es posiblemente usar como un pozo agrícola fuera del sitio, y también el distrito de agua del condado de Sunny Slope es otra opción. Thank you, Stan.
I mentioned a minute ago about habitat mitigation and the 70 acres of the county property that might be available as needed for that. And this is so that sensitive species habitat can be created and preserved through a conservation easement as required by the wildlife agencies.
También la propiedad hacia el sur del vertedero, del lugar donde se colecta la basura, son como 101 acres, y esa es propiedad que el condado de San Benito básicamente es el dueño. Entonces se propone, si es necesario, usar 70 de esos 101 acres para poder usarla como una mitigación, para poder mantener una área en donde especies sensitivas puedan posiblemente estar allí y conservarse, como quien dice. Entonces se está mirando esa como una mitigación de poder poner área adicional en ese terreno para poder conservar estas áreas, estas especies, especialmente las especies que son con aspecto sensitivo. Thank you.
As I mentioned before, the EIR provides an extensive actual description of project alternatives. CEQA requires that the EIR describe a reasonable range of alternatives to the project or to the location of the project, which would feasibly attain most of the basic objectives of the project, avoid or substantially lessen any of the significant effects of the project, and to evaluate the comparative merits of those alternatives compared to the proposed project.
La Ley de Calidad Ambiental del Estado de California, conocido como sus letras en inglés CEQA, requiere que haya un rango razonable de alternativas para el proyecto. Entonces, no solamente se analiza el proyecto, sino también posiblemente alternativas. Y las opciones son esas alternativas tienen que alcanzar razonablemente la mayoría de los objetivos básicos del proyecto. También se tiene que evitar o posiblemente disminuir sustancialmente cualquiera de los efectos significativos del proyecto en estas alternativas, y también en estas alternativas se deben de evaluar los méritos comparativos de las alternativas, o sea, los méritos de todas las alternativas se tienen que evaluar. Thank you, Stan.
This table describes the variety of alternatives that are considered in the EIR. There's 3 levels of reduced tonnage brought in daily to the site, 1,700 tons per day, 1,000 tons per day, and 300 tons per day. And the analysis of the alternatives also has sub-variations, if you will, of size of the airspace and length of the life of the landfill. So, for example, in 1A, the assumption would be 1,700 tons per day maximum accepted, and the A variation matches the amount of airspace and footprint of the proposed project, but since it's a smaller rate of waste accepted, the landfill life would be extended because it would be taking a smaller amount but over a longer period of time. Conversely, the B alternative, 1B or 2B, starts out with a smaller site, gross airspace and footprint, but it assumes that the same landfill life, which is 50 years plus after that, the mandated 15 years for in-county refuse being accepted. So both 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B have kind of those similar assumptions. And then the number 300 tons per day is a much, much smaller amount accepted, and that would be expected to have a smaller footprint as well. Then the alternative number 4 is called the southern landfill, which would assume developing a new landfill on that southern county property, plus an additional 67 acres that would be needed to create a viable landfill. So that alternative is discussed. Number 5 is assuming that a future transfer station would be developed somewhere in the greater Hollister area, and that the existing landfill would only operate for the remaining 15 years. And then by that time, a transfer station would be created. And the last one, the no project alternative, is a requirement of CEQA that the EIR compare the impacts and effects of not doing the project, comparing that to the impacts of the proposed project. That's another aspect of the required contents of an EIR.
Thank you, Stan. Entonces, el proyecto propuesto propone 2.300 toneladas de basura al día en el lugar donde se colecta la basura. Las alternativas que se han identificado en el informe ambiental indican posiblemente una variación, posiblemente también en vez de las 2.300 al día, se analiza 1.700 toneladas por día. También se analiza una reducción de 300 toneladas al día. También se analiza posiblemente no extender el proyecto en la locación actual, sino hacer un nuevo proyecto en donde se colectará la basura, como quien dice, un nuevo vertedero en la propiedad al sur, que viene siendo la propiedad en donde es dueña el condado de San Benito. Es una área de 101.3 acres. Entonces, esa opción o esa alternativa se analiza también. La alternativa número 5 también que se analiza en el reporte de informe ambiental es de no hacer más grande el lugar donde se colecta la basura, sino más bien cambiarlo como a una estación en donde se puede transferir la basura de ese lugar hacia otros basureros, si es que no se extiende. Y también se tiene que analizar si una alternativa de no proyecto, o sea, cuáles serían los impactos y efectos si no se llevara a cabo el proyecto de extender el vertedero, o sea, el lugar donde se colecta la basura. Thank you, Stan.
This is the last slide. Just again, the project alternatives also include the two alternate haul routes that I described earlier on South Fairview Road and on Best Road. And the last alternative or component of an alternative is if the project added a composting facility, which could either be located either on the project site or on the county land across the street. So analysis of that additional facility is also included. And that concludes the staff report on the project.
Las alternativas también incluyen las rutas para llevar a cabo la transportación de basura, como ya les indiqué. Las rutas, por ejemplo, del 25 hacia la calle Fairview, darle a la izquierda en la calle Fairview y luego a la derecha en la calle John Smith, es una. Y la otra, como indiqué también, de la 25, pasar la calle Fairview, seguir en la 25 y luego darle a la izquierda en la calle Best Road y luego de la calle Best a la derecha hacia la John Smith para el basurero. Y la otra alternativa número 8 sería contemplar la alternativa de agregar una sección de compost para el lugar donde se colecta el basurero, o ponerlo en la parcela hacia el sur en donde es dueña el condado de San Benito. Y esto concluye la presentación del proyecto para esta noche. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Abraham. We'll now move to public comment. Are there any speakers in chambers that would like to speak? Good. Go ahead. Have you filled out a card? Speaker. You can fill out after the fact. That's fine. Go ahead.
Please state your first name, last name, and the county you reside in for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Doesn't sound like it's on. Sure.
My name is Maureen Nelson. I am in San Benito County. I want to raise a couple issues with the landfill proposal. There's a lot of vague language within the CIR. We talk about road repair, widening McCloskey, paid by Waste Connections at the time of the widening to be reimbursed by the county for a fair share. What's a fair share? Who gets into a financial contract without knowing the cost that we're talking about? We talked about alternatives A and B to the landfill proposal. A uses the full 483 acres, not for consumption of waste, but they have all 483 acres. What you see, the difference in B is that they use less than, something smaller. What does that mean? Once you own all 483 acres, it's available to you to open it again and apply for another expansion. It's like my box of See's candy. I can get a 1 pound box or I can get a 2 pound box. I'll eat 1 pound, be happy. If I get 2 pounds, I'll eat it all. I want to talk about the transfer station. It does not state where it will be. How can you vote on a transfer station when your residents don't know what impacts and where it will be hosted out of? The 101 acres that are across the street on John Smith Road being proposed as an alternate site for mitigation of animals, that could be used as a new landfill. The current landfill sits on 95 acres. It has been open since 1969. If we need more space, we have 101 acres. What the landfill has in the EIR is they'd like to have an additional 72 acres purchased by the county for soil retention. We're currently using 95 acres with soil retention. Since when did soil grow to need its own 72 acres? Biological assessments were done on between 10 a.m. and 2:30. Several of the biological animals come out at dawn and at dusk. You do not see what is out there at 10 to 2:30 during the day. I'd also like to talk about the out of county trucks. This increase would increase the trucks to 95 per day. Do the math. That's 190 passes in every day of a large truck in front of school children. We have Santana Ranch. We have the Seventh-day Adventist school that is on McCloskey. Both ways, in and out, are affected. That's what I had. I wrote my notes fast. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
if
you.
you would fill out a card, just thank you. Is there anyone else here in chambers that would like to speak? Sir, if you could fill out a card as well, you can speak first, so thank you.
Please state your first name, last name, and the county you reside in for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Barry Katz. I live in San Benito County, barely, block from the boundary. Hello? Hello?
And you can we'll restart your minutes.
You want me to start over?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's okay.
Is this better?
That's perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. My name is Barry Katz. I live in Aromas in San Benito County. I only have 2 points. The biggest issue, I think, for a lot of people is traffic and in all the additional trucks. And I don't know if it's been answered or not, but my question is whether the trucks would be restricted from the busiest hours on the busiest highways. I mean, we're using Highway 25, which is insane at times. I know that many cities restrict truck traffic during that. I don't know if that's been addressed or not. And then the larger point that I have to say is that Measure Q is on the ballot, which would require a vote of the people of the county, the voters of the county for projects of this nature and other large projects. And I don't want to see this rushed before Election Day. I think that we should wait and see if the people vote for Measure Q, and if so, let them vote for or against this project. I particularly think a project of a 65-year magnitude doesn't need to be rushed and shouldn't be. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead. Yeah, if you could fill out the card, we appreciate it. Is there anyone else in chambers that would like to speak? John?
Please state your first and last name and the county you reside in for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is John Freeman. I'm a resident of San Juan Bautista, which is in San Benito County. In full disclosure, I'm on the Integrated Waste Management Board. And I'm here kind of as a general overview. I'd like to say that I come from the waste industry. I spent 20 years in the hazardous waste industry, Ramic Environmental in East Palo Alto, California. So I know a little bit about it. I know what it's like to be tortured by well-meaning citizens who think I'm throwing waste into the bay, which was not true. So I have a little different perspective, possibly. But so basically, I think there's 2 questions before the board, and that's to expand the landfill and then the issues of traffic and trucks and amount of tonnage received. I think the second question should be really separated out from the first, and that should be negotiated and reviewed every couple of years. It shouldn't be a static thing. But as for the landfill expansion, I think it should, it needs to occur. If it doesn't, we'll be back here in 20 years, maybe 25 years, arguing the same points again, maybe even 15 years. And I think that's a waste of resources, time. I think it can be done properly. At the public workshop that was held Monday night, and I have spoken to the people who live near the landfill, Heatherwood Estates and such, and they do have really legitimate concerns. I visited Heatherwood Estates, and the traffic and the truck noise it's disconcerting to say the least. And I don't know if it's possible, maybe it's not, but I would look for another route. You know, even, I said the back way in. I was talking to a person and I joked the back way in or something. But that's not, you know, you need to find a way that can alleviate the traffic and the noise that the people are really complaining about. And if you have any further questions, most of you know me and my phone number. You can chat with me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in chambers? If there's no one else here in chambers, how about speakers on Zoom?
Kent Gordon, you have been unmuted. Please state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record. If you joined by phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Kent Gordon. I'm a resident of the Santa Ana Valley. My family has owned property there since 1872. Some of our land will be at the northern edge of the proposed expansion. And to say the least, my family is not at all excited about this proposal. The John Smith landfill expansion project represents a significant shift in the usage and intention of the original landfill. The expansion was described in the EIR as roughly 80% for the benefit of Santa Clara County. This new version might rightly be called the Santa Clara County Landfill of Hollister, rather like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Accepting 2,000 tons of trash per day from Santa Clara County is highly problematic. Although the revenue stream from this waste is significant, it's never been accurately balanced out by the accounting for the cost of ongoing maintenance and repair of roadways impacted by the trash trucks hauling their waste here. This treadmill effect means that San Benito County receives money and trash from Santa Clara County, but spends much of it repairing the damage done to the roadways as a result of the trash trucks. Seems that no one, certainly not the representatives of Waste Solutions, is willing to discuss the ongoing costs offsetting the revenue stream to determine if the net benefit to San Benito County is significant. It's hard to make headway when you're on a treadmill. The acceptance of out-of-county trash was a decision reached by the County Board of Supervisors some years ago. No doubt it seemed like a good idea at the time, but this new expansion greatly distorts the original concept through its sheer size and volume. The costs of accepting out-of-county trash are accruing along Shore Road, Fairview Road, and John Smith Road. Repaving projects along these trash delivery routes merely point out the diversion of resources from other roads in the county that are in desperately need of repair. The air pollution associated with the trash trucks can be quantified and accounted for. The amounts of garbage escaping from these trucks can be observed by county residents and those who live along the disposal roads. Rerouting the trucks along 25 and McCloskey merely moves the problem from one location to another. It solves nothing. We now have the benefit of some years of observation and evaluation. Accepting out-of-county trash has not been a winning strategy for addressing the needs of San Benito County. We should also consider the sustainability of the project. Project Alternative B roughly sets out some parameters that might be appropriate for the needs of San Benito County residents, especially considering that for the next 50 years, we need to be able, in the master plan, to be able to account for trash needs of the county. And these alternatives may be able to serve the needs of the county without the enormous impact of the original proposed expansion. Alternative 3 seems to provide some acceptable levels of trash capacity for the county, and the reduced footprint of the project keeps it in line with the needs of the county, as does the 300 tons per day limit on trash disposal. This proposal does not generate the income of the original proposal. Neither San Benito County nor the Waste Solutions groups will become the beneficiary of quite the level of revenue stream, but it's a proposal that's in scale with the needs of the county and its residents and does not create the ongoing costs, environmental, economic, and aesthetic that the original expansion entails. If San Benito County Board of Supervisors looks at the entirety of the John Smith landfill expansion project, they must consider the needs of the people of their county first and foremost. These needs and the needs and finances of Waste Solutions and the trash disposal needs of Santa Clara County should not be their primary concern. Excuse me. The original expansion plan is not a good fit for San Benito County. Far better alternatives exist that will be much more.
Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, I would simply suggest that any comments that are not able to be delivered within the 3 minutes be submitted in writing, and they will be included in the record.
Good suggestion, Joel. Okay, thank you. Go ahead with the next speaker, please.
Gary W., you have been unmuted. Please state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record. If you joined by phone, please.
Do you hear me okay?
Please press *6 to unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. Yes, we can hear you.
You can. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for letting me speak. My name is Gary Moran, and I live in San Benito County. I have a lot of issues on my mind, but tonight I want to stick to the traffic issues. That seems to be everybody's mind. But I want to speak a little more directly to the EIR. I have asked some of my friends and neighbors about what they think about the landfill expansion. Some were basically unaware of the project, but there were others who opposed it. And interesting, though, those who opposed it seemed to think about the truck traffic rather than the actual landfill. So I think the truck traffic is a big deal for us to think about. The county decided on page 4.2-11 of the EIR that heavy trucks would not be included in the VMT. That's vehicles per mileage traveled. That's traffic, basically. Only autos and pickups were evaluated. The evaluations of heavy trucks was limited to sections on noise and emissions rather than VMT or traffic flow, which seems a little strange to me. Also, the EIR haul route seems to view Fairview Road as a straight line with speeds about 50 miles an hour. However, there are now 3 stoplights on Fairview Road and soon a 4th at Hillcrest Road. Trucks will probably be stopped several times when going to or from the landfill. As we know, that diesel trucks make the most noise and smoke when they are accelerating from a stop. At each light, there are houses right next to the intersections. There are subdivisions, houses, and a school that should be considered. Fairview Road is not a simple cruise at 50 miles an hour. At rush hour, I have seen cars backed up from Santa Ana Light at Santa Ana Road to halfway to Santa Ana Valley Road. If we throw trucks in there, it really gets a lot worse. And regarding sound measurements per table 4.5-3, these measurements were taken in the morning. All of them were in the morning for some reason, and there was no wind. I can attest to the fact that in the afternoon, if you are on the east side of Fairview Road, the prevailing wind in the afternoon makes the traffic noise twice as bad. And exhaust smoke blows straight from the road to your house. Peak noise measurements should be taken as trucks accelerate away from the lights. I think they will most likely exceed the 80 dBs. I believe the EIR stated noise and emission impacts of less than significant on the haul route are not accurate, and that ignoring traffic flow is a major emission of the EIR. Ignoring traffic flow, congestion, and aesthetics of several hundred trucks passing through residential areas every day for 50 years leaves the EIR pretty incomplete. I think that these are significant and unavoidable issues that need to be evaluated. From a community perspective, 50 years of trucks streaming to and from Hollister will be such a permanent sight that it will become our trademark. There go all the garbage trucks on their way to Hollister.
Thank you, sir.
Canyon, please state your name. You've been unmuted. Please state your first name, last name, and county you reside in for the record. If you joined by phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Canyon, Sarah's Roots, part-time San Benito County, part-time Santa Clara County. I am of Indian Canyon Nation. We are the local indigenous inhabitants and original stewards of this territory. I want to remind the community that just because on environmental impact reports, we acknowledge the historical, biological, and pre-contact history, that even this meeting is happening in Mutsunaloni territory, and the indigenous peoples are still here. I do want to point out that I participated in a site visit, and a lot of the times cultural resources are acknowledged only by historical artifacts that are present beneath the surface of the soil. And a phase 1 just ground survey was taken, and a lot of that area has been highly disturbed just by ranchers. And I want to point out that these are cultural landscapes, cultural soundscapes, and culturally significant spaces of my ancestors. And I really appreciate the recent comments, because nowhere was there a conversation about, if this is going to be expanded, the impact report regarding the road expansions and the development on these roads. These areas go through other cultural sites, other areas of significant impact, and that would need its own review and survey and acknowledgement in that. So I recognize the need of having more space to take waste, but I definitely want to second, and our community of Indian Canyon recognizes that we don't want to be Santa Clara's drop-off point. So if it was providing to our community, and if our community acknowledges the waste that it creates, we need to see our messes to be responsible as a community. And so I do want to point out that we are in Mutsunaloni territory, and the indigenous peoples need to be part of the decision-making process, not just part of an EIR, or not just part of a consideration at the very last second of saying, here's this draft report, and if you have any comments, even if there is a negative declaration. So I appreciate your efforts, and I also want to second what John Freeman was saying. I recognize the position he holds, being an in-between. The community needs this, as well as the considerations that are, our environment and our community considerations culturally, communally, and to the next generations. We need to consider these decision-making procedures. Thank you.
Public comment?
Okay. No one else in chambers? No more public comment? Okay. Selena, there was one more agenda item, but I believe we are going to put that off to our next meeting.
Maybe we want to make a motion to
Yeah,
do
so
so.
let me entertain a motion that we will delay the agenda item on the bylaws to our next landfill committee meeting.
I motion as stated.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There we go. Two again. We're on the same page.
I know, I think so.
Okay. I guess I have to open it up for public comment on that agenda, on that motion, or do I? I don't know. Is there any public comment? Kind of doubt it. Okay, we're going to move. I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. 2-0. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, staff. We appreciate all your time after hours. Okay.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here.